Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting to order, the Abington Planning Board meeting on February 5th, 2024. In the interest of time, we're going to pause on the call, well, I've called the meeting to order, but we'll do the minutes and the Form As and correspondence later. The first thing we want to bring up is to meet with the Abington Affordable Housing Trust. And I see the members here, and I see Mr. Ken Coyle here. Ken, if you want to come up, sit with us and talk, or go to the podium there.
Can our members come up to it?
Yeah, please, yeah, please.
All
Yeah,
right,
please.
come on, guys.
Is this a choir? How are you?
Kenny, you're good.
Thank you. You can move that microphone down to capture everybody's.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time. I'm with Alexis. Alexis is Lazada.
Lanzalotta.
Lanzalotta. She is our consultant from Barrett Planning Group, and she's helped us a lot. And she's going to help us tonight too, just to kind of explain what we're doing. You probably already know the Affordable Housing Trust was formed. And I would like to pass out to you folks is Barrett Planning was nice enough to help us do a strategic plan. This was our first goal, and we will vote. This is just a draft, but it's pretty much exactly what we're going to vote, and we're going to vote at our next meeting. Since we've been formed, we've been asking the CPA for funds, and they've been giving us a little bit of money. I think we have around maybe $300,000 so far. And I will touch quickly on what we're about. Okay? And I'm just going to read it, but we're here for any questions you might have if you're not sure what we're about. I will be honest with you, we are new. This is the first time the town's had an affordable housing trust. And our goal is to acquire, create, preserve, retain, support affordable housing for the benefit of low and moderate income households in the town of Abington. I'm just going to touch upon some of our goals. Our vision is to enable creative, collaborative, and effective methods of producing and preserving low and moderate income housing. Values, continually pursue strategic and resourceful opportunities to create safe and quality affordable housing in Abington. Collaborate, that's why we're here, and build community partnerships. Educate the community about affordable housing. That's one of our number one goals, because a lot of people don't really know what affordable housing is. Frankly, they're scared of it. Provide the trust with the training necessary to ensure its members are well equipped, and we definitely need that. We're new, we don't really know exactly how to go about it, but we're going to try our best. We all know the housing in Abington situation is tough. It's tough everywhere. We want to become an effective facilitator of affordable housing in Abington, to help the town meet its obligations to expand and protect its supply of affordable housing. We all know the 10% rule. You guys probably deal with it more than anybody with the chapter 40, is it 40B? 40B. So you know all about how we were pretty close to the 10%, and we aren't anymore. We need help. We've got to get some affordable housing in Abington. I can go over all the numbers, but I think it's kind of redundant because you folks know all about Abington's housing. And I do want to stress, though, about some of the key facts. And anybody that has children in town, children that you would like to someday see live in Abington, we know we want to make sure it's not a pipe dream, because it's going to be pretty tough right now. Not many houses are available. The median sales price of single-family homes in Abington in 2022 was $525,000. And to afford this purchase price, Abington's current property tax rate, a household would need to earn approximately $190,000 annually to afford a house in Abington. That's pretty crazy.
It's probably a little bit better now, because that was calculated with, based on 7.5% interest, which mortgage rates have gone down somewhat. But yeah, so there's a footnote on the bottom explaining the methodology there.
Yep. So, I mean, a household would have to earn $138,000 just to get their foot in the door. It just, again, I have kids in college, and I'm actually fear for them, having to live in our house for a long time too, but we are all well of that. We're well of that. And even, not just owning a house, but a rent. I mean, the average rent is almost $2,700. And in order to pay for that, you'd have to earn $110,000 annually to afford, just to live in Abington. A lot of people are overburdened by the price. You're supposed to be 30% of their gross income, and an estimated 29% of the households are cost burdened, and they have to pay more than their 30%. So I just want to touch a little bit about that. Some of our goals and what we're trying to do is going to go down to, and the main reason that we're here is just to talk about, of course I'm not going to, community support. In order for us to get anything done, we have to gain this community support. Because again, affordable housing is a scary word. You know, we want more places for our seniors to live. And affordable housing. You know, we see a lot of our seniors being forced out. If you can't go online without reading about someone from Abington who got their tax bill and they said, this is it, I have to leave, I can't afford it anymore, they're on fixed income. It's actually pretty depressing that the town that we grew up in is becoming unaffordable. This is happening everywhere, it's not just happening us. Partnerships. We want to get partnerships, that's why we're here, we want to get the support. So if you go to town meeting and ask for money for the CPA or ask for a project, because the Affordable Housing Trust has a lot of power, whereas they can spend whatever money we have in our trust, we can spend without town meeting approval. If an opportunity comes where the affordable housing can purchase, let's say something that's in tax title, we can pick it up and rehab it and make it more affordable housing. There's a lot of power. We need the money, we need the partnership, because we want the support of the planning board, the zoning board, the selectmen, even town groups. We want to have the seniors on our side. And capacity, that's basically just educating and training our members, looking for sales support. We need support. Alexis has been very helpful to us. We would like to get some support. We've also had a lot of help from Liz and from Kevin, thank you, for helping us. And we've got a lot of irons in the fire. We have the South Shore Habitat for Humanity who's come to us, and we're working on a couple of projects with them. We all know that, not in my backyard, we don't want it here, we don't want it here, but we're going to continue to work with them to try to get some more housing units. They're also working on purchasing a property from HUD that someone went bankrupt on, so they're going to buy that and try to rehab it. They're looking for funding for that. What else? Obviously the two school projects. We're waiting for the selectmen. I think they're working on the RFP. Our hopes were, and I'm not sure what the RFP is actually going to say, but our hopes that were, one of them was going to be for affordable senior housing, and the other one would have a set number of affordable housing units in that north school, and the center school would be for just seniors. You know, very limited number of units there. So you folks gave us what was in the 2019 master plan, and I'm not sure if you folks, the planning board, came up with those. I think you did. I know that Kevin sent it to us, but
I think that was something that Dan Crane
okay.
worked on
All right.
back when Dan was town planner.
We actually modeled a lot of our goals in our plan on those points. And I'll read them quickly because a lot of people at home aren't going to know what I'm talking about. So these are from the 2019 master plan, and this was Abington Affordable Housing Goals and Priorities, and these were before the Abington Affordable Housing Trust was formed. Established programs to support local housing initiatives, including down payment assistance, closing costs, and rental assistance programs by leveraging funding and administrative resources through funding available from the Community Preservation Act. Well, you know, probably 6 or 7 years ago when this was written, there was no affordable housing trust. We formed that, and we have some funds from the Community Preservation Act. We're in line to get more funding this year. And some of those down payment assistance, closing costs, rental assistance are programs that we've talked about. Maybe not in the first year, but they're definitely in our affordable, in our strategic plan. Support Abington Housing Authority. 2 of our members are actually on the Housing Authority in developing additional affordable housing for low-income families. Nothing we would like more than to help them. They have land available up off of Shore Ave. They have a little bit of land right here. And we know that the federal funds have kind of dried up, but we would love to somehow work with them, especially if it's going to be for Abington seniors, to let them stay in town. So there's a waiting list of over 200, and it's 2 years for Abington residents to find affordable housing. And that's not even in Abington, that's just part in their whole district. So that's something that we're working towards. Establish a first-time home buyer program so the town residents and employees can become homeowners in our community. Again, something that's on our strategic plan for a little bit later down the road, but it's definitely within our 3 years. And we've actually kind of put feelers out with some of the banks, and they're starting to do some of that on their own. Obviously, it would maybe cover the down payment, so that's the hardest part for a lot of these people. Underutilized town-owned land and other surplus property should be considered for affordable housing needs, which could support such development. I know that a lot of the surplus land has been sold, but I really think that there are some units, and eventually someone's going to say, yes, that's a good spot for a Habitat for Humanity house, and we hope that's in the near future, because they kind of shot us down on a couple others. I really don't have much else. Alexis, did you want to add anything?
I think I would just reiterate that for the strategic plan, which thank you for bringing copies, we're making a few changes to it, so it's in draft form, but starting on page, I think it's page 11, these are the actions that we've kind of proposed, and as Ken mentioned, they really are leaning on, we've reviewed the master plan goals in consideration of a lot of these strategies. Now, strategic plan is a little bit different in nature, of course. It's, a lot of it is focusing on the operating, procedures of the trust to kind of get them really up and running and, to work as efficiently as possible. But we did include a lot of the kind of strategies about ways for the trust to fulfill their mission. We also reviewed, in the same year the master plan was done, the town also did its housing production plan, and that, I believe, is expiring at some point this year. So we also reviewed all of the strategies from the housing production plan and carried over. One of the recommendations in it, in fact, was to establish an affordable housing trust. So that, check on that, that was completed. So a lot of, any of the other recommendations that were in the HPP that were still relevant and still seem to be a priority to the trust, we brought into the strategic plan. And I think that's probably all I would add. There are strategies in here relating to zoning, which I think would be a big part of where the Affordable Housing Trust would want to, partner with the planning board in terms of zoning changes that would facilitate housing production. Now, the trust funds can only be used for affordable housing, but that doesn't mean, in the broader conversation of housing opportunity in Abington, there are certainly other zoning changes that we include in here, including, I'm trying to remember, Ken, if you did include the ADU conversation about that.
Yep.
And then inclusionary zoning, so just different zoning strategies, that would likely come ultimately from the planning board to go to town meetings. So I think that's probably one of the biggest areas of partnership.
What page is the zoning strategies mentioned on, please?
Good question. So it's kind of scattered because the way the strategic plan is set up is by year. So year 1, year 2. So I can take a quick scan for you, but it's not organized by topic, it's organized by year, since it's an action plan for them. So one of them actually, on page 12, 1.5, was to remain, I think the number moved a little bit because we updated the draft, but remain involved with local conversations about the MBTA communities law and the town's approach to compliance. When we wrote that, I think, when we started this drafting process, I think you were in a different place than you are now. My understanding is my colleague Judy was just here last week talking about that. So that is, probably kind of already well underway.
On page 15 and 16, on the bottom of 15, the top of 16, we talk about inclusionary zoning bylaws. We talk about inclusionary zoning feasibility study with OCPC. And on the bottom of 15, we talk about develop regulatory updates that would facilitate the production of affordable housing, which is obviously about the accessory dwelling units, including, so just because they're in year 3 here does not mean that we can't move them forward. We look like heroes, actually, if we did that.
Right, and so I think that's one thing that we discussed the last time I was with the Housing Trust was, these were just suggested because year 1, the trust really needs to focus on getting their operations, smoothly up and running, figuring out how they're going to implement these and track it and whatnot. But certainly if the planning board were already working on or, considering zoning amendments, probably not for this year because you're already, well underway for town meeting, but say next year, even if it's not in year 3 of the Housing Trust strategic plan, I'm sure obviously the Housing Trust would want to partner with the planning board on that.
I think in the past, the housing production plan was done by the planning board along with OCPC. Obviously, if you folks want to share the duties or how somehow we can work together on that, because a lot of that falls under the Affordable Housing Trust now, I believe. No, I'm not trying to take any power away, but I
Like
think we
maybe
can
the
work.
cost.
Well,
Yes, I
You know,
think, CPA funds are often used to pay for the housing production plan. But also just, remember that when the planning board maybe oversaw the last HPP, it's because there wasn't any affordable housing trust, so.
But if we were to go in, again, to talk about working together, if Affordable Housing Trust and Planning Board went to CPA and said, we'd like funding for this, I think it would have a lot more clout.
I know that document's got to be at least 5. I used to work for Old Colony Planning Council, retired from a few years ago, but I know that Lisa Sullivan and Laurie Muncy worked on it, and Lisa left the end of 2019, so that document's got to be at least 5.
I think it was
years.
2019, I think. we looked it up.
2019 is what it says on the cover, September 2019, so
Yeah.
So we're done
it's
2018.
expiring.
How is the trust, who are the members? I mean, how do they pick members?
Yes, and I apologize, I thought they'd all be up here, but no, they are obviously are camera shy.
Yeah.
But we have, there's 4, I'm the only male on the board, but that's not, don't worry about that. Ellen Delaney, Pam Howe, Suzanne DeJustburg, who is the selectman's representative. One member has to be a select person. And we also have Jennifer Brady Sullivan.
So it's appointed? Or
Yes, we're
Okay.
appointed two staggering 2-year terms. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
And
Okay.
it's a state statute or?
Yeah, I
We
think,
adopted it
yeah,
at a town meeting.
Well, I guess what I'm bringing up is that
Yeah.
some of these committees that depend on volunteers can crumble apart. I just want to make sure this is something that's going to keep rolling. I was worried about with the CPA.
well, we actually agree with you, and we had a little bit of discussion tonight about maybe trying to see if we could increase the membership, even though it's in the Declaration of Trust, and it was voted at town meeting, but we'd like to get a little more representation. We have some trouble, we have a member that they're not always able to make the meetings, plus with a member of the Board of Selectmen, there's turnover, because our first member is not on the board anymore, so Suzanne is doing a great job. She's been on since the beginning of the year. So, yeah, we're worried about the same thing about that
Yeah.
also.
Can you have associate members?
I don't know, it doesn't say we can't, so that would probably be a good,
I used to
For
I used to
town
be on
manager.
it.
yeah, before it was yeah.
Before it was the trust,
We had a weird name before then, but started out. So we're eager to work with you folks, and we don't know, I mean, Alexis probably knows, I have no clue. How do we get some of these zoning articles? Do we go to the planning board and request them, and then we go to the zoning board, or do we work together?
So the planning board presents the zoning articles to the town meeting. So you can reach out like next October-ish, because that's when I start working on it.
Okay.
So by April, I'm tapped, but,
But,
but just to let you know, the ADUs are on a list, along with a couple of other things.
Okay.
To get that moving. That's a next year project, only because MBTA Communities is a pretty heavy lift
Yeah.
this year.
So that actually is in our year 2, so that.
Yep,
that's a
we're
nice
good.
thing.
And then we do have 10% inclusionary zoning with our
transit?
MBTA community zoning.
Okay.
In order to have more than that, we needed to do a feasibility study, which we did not do.
Should,
Okay.
okay.
But you don't otherwise have inclusionary zoning
We
rights
do
in that
not,
district?
not generally, no.
Is that something?
But we didn't allow multi-units by right either,
Okay.
right? So,
So I think the work you're doing is among the most important being undertaken in this town right now. It's so important. do have a couple of questions just to follow up. So the RFPs haven't gone out yet for the schools?
My understanding is that selectmen are in charge of that. No, they have not.
Is there something holding them up?
I think it was originally water, but now we're not sure.
Yeah, I'm,
That's the question we asked, but I have yet to receive an answer any day now.
I thought they went out a year ago. No? All right. But the decision was that the building would take place within the footprint of the existing?
I believe that's
potentially?
what, again, we are not in charge of the RFP, the Board of Selectmen, the town manager's in
Oh, I
charge
thought you
of
made a recommendation about,
it. Oh, we definitely made a recommendation.
Okay.
That the footprint of the center school stay the same.
okay. And that was because neighbors were,
Well, Barrett did the whole survey, and
Yeah.
that's kind of, I thought, what the way it worked out, is that, people didn't want it to expand.
Yeah.
They didn't want it to be any bigger, and there was more affordable housing, affordable senior units are more palpable than anything else up there.
yeah, I also remember them saying that not expanding outside the footprint's really gonna limit that.
They're not
opportunity.
going up and not yet, just
Yeah.
staying the way it was.
with financing as well.
So I think that was maybe 12 units, I think.
Okay.
Maybe
Yeah, I think
around
there were
that.
different
Yeah.
plans with
Yeah.
different number of units,
Yeah.
depending on what you wanted to select. And then the size of the units inside would be
And another,
different square feet.
right, another thing that we can do as an affordable housing trust, and I say this not that I'm an expert in this because I'm not, but I see success stories in other towns, how they use the CPA funds. We can work with developers and do public-private partnerships to come up with some ideas. We're kind of exploring one of those now.
Like New England Art, I hope.
I don't know. Thank you, though,
So
Sounds like a great idea.
The SHI list, that number that's in there, does that include Summer Street and Plymouth? Or
No.
does not yet? Does not?
No,
Okay.
they have to pull a building permit.
Right,
We
okay.
can't
That's
count
what I
them until
wanted to
they
make sure.
pull a building permit.
So if they do,
Mm-hmm.
what would that do to the number? That gets it up over 9%, doesn't it?
Yes.
Okay, but not quite at 10.
We have one of
Well,
our members and
Summer Street
experts on
would.
this too, right? Pam? Pam, what's the number gonna be if those are approved, do you know?
It was like 9.998.
We're-
That's what I
we're
thought.
very-
Okay. Okay.
Very, very close. I thought actually Summer Street would put us over.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not sure, because I don't know what the number of units they settled
Yeah,
on was at the
that's,
end of the day.
I guess it's a little disappointing that we couldn't at least put, 3 extra units or whatever the number was to require, but I mean,
That was in
that's.
somebody else's program.
That number is really a moving target.
Oh,
It
Exactly,
is
I
a
was gonna
moving
make-
target
I was
though.
gonna
Every
make
time
that.
you build a new house, 4 new houses, you have to put in a new, I understand.
Every time somebody builds a unit, it's
Yep, absolutely.
Sorry.
Yep.
Can I just ask a quick question about, so if, you might want to find out if your housing production plan is, so the cover says September 2019, which would mean it's still, current, because whatever, the units that you're referring to, you could request certification from the state once they go on, and that, if it's over whatever the annual production goal was in the last HVP, I don't have that in front of me, I just have the strategies from it. But then that would give you, say if there was, this time period where you would just want to request that before the HPP expires, whenever that is. So, the draft plan doesn't have like a date of approval at the state level, but that is something,
On those two projects?
it doesn't, for the housing production plan. So what the state counts for when it expires is, when they approve it, but all I see on the cover is, that it was done in September 2019. I don't know when it actually expires.
Okay.
But if it lines up with, whenever those units you're referring to go on the SHI, it might be worth requesting safe harbor gives you a year of reprieve, I guess, from, it gives the ZBA more leeway over 40B applications for that calendar year.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Do we have any updates on the North Quincy Street possibility? Is that moving forward?
They were getting water weren't they trying to get water from
Oh,
Brockton?
that,
That was a big project.
who was it, Zachary Ahmed?
Yeah, but that was just a quick,
Yeah, they still need water from Brockton.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. A couple other questions. So I understand you haven't looked yet at the surplus properties in town, or all of them.
we've looked at some of them.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, South Shore Habitat Committee came in, and before, they asked for the list.
They did, okay.
But before they even got the list, they were referred to Glen Oaks Way.
All right.
And then they were referred to Griffin's.
Yeah.
So they haven't even looked at the list yet.
Yeah, I'd love to have someone take a really good scouring of that because, it's really easy to say, well, we tried to auction them off and there wasn't a lot of interest. There's a difference between there being interest at an auction from builders where they can't go in and kick the tires very much and having a group go in and say, you know what, I think we could do this based on our economics and whatnot. So I'd hate to just assume that there isn't anything there. As well as, there may be more a public interest to work to get around some of the issues on some of the sites, if it's going for a purpose like this.
Yep.
So I definitely think there needs to be a good scouring of that list. There's got to be a
Agreed.
couple of
Oh,
spots.
yeah, it's gotta be, we talked about maybe Diane Circle, either end of Diane Circle.
Yeah, exactly. So you mentioned, I guess the conversation we're having is, we can't fix this problem on our own in Abington. Like, no matter what we do in Abington, we can't fix the cost issue by ourselves.
Right.
We can't build, and we're not gonna bring the prices down. It's a whole regional macro
Yep.
thing. So one of the things that we're debating is, we also have a need to protect commercial land in this town. Do you have any thoughts about how we do that? Can we have some conversations with landowners in North Abington Center and Abington Center about what they're planning to do? Because then, that might be a better option than some of the other spots like Route 18 or 123. Have you thought about how we need to balance those needs?
I don't think we really touched much
No.
upon commercial. However, if that conversation is to happen, we would love to be part of it. We'd love to sit in and talk about it, but I really don't, you talk about commercial land, that's not really affordable. I don't know if that's part of our thing.
Do you think we need to loosen our regulations in some neighborhoods of town?
We haven't discussed it.
So, if I may, there is a little summary on page 7, just talking about some of the regulatory constraints as they were identified in the last housing production plan. So we did not do like a zoning audit or anything. We just took this from the assessment that was done in the housing production plan. And it just kind of outlines the regulatory constraints, which basically what it comes down to is that housing types other than detached single-family homes at the time of that housing production plan were not allowed by right in any residential district. So like two-family, for example. There was really no other residential use allowed by right. There were some things that were allowed by right in non-residential zones, such as conversion of existing dwellings. So I think, this strategic plan didn't go so far as to make recommendations, because that's not really the job of the strategic plan, but it did point out those regulatory constraints that were identified in the HPP. So that, looking at those, that might be another area where the Housing Trust and the Planning Board, if any of those kind of constraints identified on page 7 sound like something the town is interested in looking at.
I don't understand though exactly what you're saying. You're talking about taking some of the business commercial property and...
Yeah, I guess that's some of the thing is if we're talking about some possible regulatory changes down the road to encourage affordable housing production, at the same time we're, I think, starting to have some concerns about, in some areas, do we need to pull back the reins a little bit, because frankly we've done a lot in this town. The conversation we had is less than half of our housing stock are single-family homes. So they're either duplexes, triplexes, multifamily, multi-unit. So I think there's a desire to be a little bit more cautious about what land is available for residential versus preserving it for commercial.
Yeah, I understand.
We're fortunate, some communities have dual taxation rates. They have a taxation rate for business, and they have a taxation rate for residential. And Ken, you were on Selectmen. I think there have been proposals in town before to have a dual taxation rate. Am I correct on that?
There's always a lot of feedback, and people don't quite understand the whole, and I didn't understand it frankly when I got on, but you know, everybody, it looks good on paper, like, oh yeah, the businesses pay more, but really it's not conducive to bring business in town. And the difference for a homeowner, and even if it's the max, the sliding scale is the max, it's not, the benefits aren't, you don't save a lot of money in taxes. You know, you're hurt the businesses more than that.
Yeah, it sends the wrong message.
Yeah.
I've always been glad that Abington resisted, personally, that resisted doing it. You know, it makes sense in a place like Avon that has a huge industrial base, and, you know, a relatively small residential, in a city like Brockton. But I know they've tried to do it in Plymouth too, I believe, and Weymouth even, and I think they've resisted it.
My concern with that is that the average business in Abington has seen a tax cut the past 3-4 years on their property tax bills, and residents have not. But one other question, or at least more of a thought, there's a statement here about Abington's public school population. I suggest tweaking it slightly to reflect that it is coming up, and that the classes we're seeing at the high school are the lowest we're going to see for the next 12 years. That every class starting after the 7th grade is 30 to 50 kids larger
Okay,
than all those other grades
What page is
before.
that on, Rich?
Page 4.
okay.
Because we haven't voted this, so
Yeah.
we can probably add some of this.
So just a quick, going back to 2018, school populations increased about 10%, but it's going to increase even more in the coming years. I think the average size right now is like 140 in the high school, and all of them grades starting about grade 7, it gets up to about 170 to 180. So there's a bubble coming through that's going to be, that's being felt. But this is really informative and helpful, so thank you for putting all this together.
To be honest with you, I mean, you have copies of our strategic plan. We're voting in 3 weeks. So if you see something on there that you think might be something good to add or something that's wrong, please
Yeah.
shoot me an email, because I'll bring it up at our next meeting.
Will do.
Because we are going to
I have a
finalize
copy
it.
of the housing production plan that I can share. Liz, do you have the most recent housing production plan?
I actually think we have it somewhere.
I have it.
somewhere.
I have it because, you know, back in the day. And I can, you know, we can share it amongst ourselves too. I think that would be useful.
Yep. Well, basically, we just wanted to come in and introduce ourselves and let you know that it may not look like we're doing things, but we're really starting to get the ball rolling. With your help, we'll get some of our goals accomplished.
Well, you know, I'm a member of the CPA committee, and Ellen
Yeah.
and other people, and we're, you know, you come to us every year for funding.
Yeah.
This is my other hat on the planning board. And, you know, people on the CPA committee see what you're doing.
They do it. It was a little touch and go with our first meetings, because you want this money for what? This is what? You can spend it any way you want? Yes.
Well, as a
But-
planner,
but-
I
but-
understood it.
Yeah, you did. But then we brought up draft plan, and everybody seemed to be excited that we're finally making some progress on that, so thank you.
May I just ask one question about a data point? I think, Mr. Collins, I think you had mentioned single-family detached structures making up less than half. Is that based on assessors? Do you know what that's based on?
That was from the Old Colony Planning Council's housing production plan, I think was that number came from.
Okay.
It was, yeah, I don't have the
Okay,
exact.
no, that's
number. It
fine,
was-
that's fine. I just want to make sure, because I might need to update a different bullet, because we were looking at American Community Survey estimates that may not have, they may have a different source, so I'll take a look at that.
What page is that you're looking at?
Page 4. So now, that said, without knowing what source OCPC is using, the bullet, so it's under housing stock key facts, that American Community Survey data is looking at the number of units versus properties and structures, and so it's a little complicated. It's not an apples to apples comparison with like assessor's records. So I just want to see, I'll take a look and make sure
Now,
it's
I'm familiar
congruent.
with the American community. Could you explain it, you know, maybe in layman's terms, exactly what it is? How's that derived, and how current is it, please?
Sure. So the American Community Survey is developed by the U.S. Census Bureau. So they every 10 years they do the decennial census, and then I'm not sure exactly when it started, but I do know that 2000 was the last decennial census where a lot of demographic questions were asked, and sometime between 2000 and 2010. The Census Bureau started issuing the American Community Survey, which is not as precise as the census because it is based on monthly surveys that are, distributed. I'm not sure if I'm not exactly sure what their method is for distribution, but I do know that it's a monthly survey that they basically take a rolling average of responses. And then we typically use the 5-year estimates. They also issue 1-year estimates. But the 5-year estimates are less, there's less margin of error in those. So, you have to take anything from the American Community Survey with a grain of salt because it is an estimate. But it's, it's often the best data source available, unless you are, have the resources to do a lot more, local data analysis. So it is from the U.S. Census Bureau. If you go on the U.S. Census Bureau's site and you search for like community facts for Abington, most likely most of what they're citing is the American Community Survey.
Yep, I just pulled it up here. OCPC, Housing Production Plan, I misspoke a little bit. Single-family homes in Abington is 58.6%.
Okay, all right.
So 41.4% is
Okay,
all other types,
all right. Thank you.
which is still a pretty low number from what I would have expected.
Yeah,
so.
right.
I'm gonna get a smartphone, so I can pull it. I just have to go home and do it on my computer.
They're only as smart as the person behind it there, that's the problem. I've learned that.
Thank you
So when it
for
comes
that.
time to redo your master plan, let us know, reach out to us, and we can help work together on the project.
And again, thank you for that explanation, too, appreciate it. Well, thank you, folks.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much,
Ken.
thank you. Look forward to working with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice
Thank
to meet you.
All right.
Can you skip right down to 198 Center Ave, so Dave doesn't have to pick this all up?
But he's having such a good time.
I know.
Playing candy corn over there or something.
He's using his smartphone. Thank you, Sean.
Are you gonna jump to Center Ave, Bruce?
Yes.
I need to step away from that.
Okay.
Please.
All right, we'll wait to Bob, please.
Okay, next up is the public hearing for the site plan at 198 Center Ave continued. Mr. Riley and Mr. LaPointe, and Mr. LaPointe's, I guess, there. And talk about it.
Thank you, Chairman Hughes. For the record, Sean Riley, 500 Washington Street, representing Abington Investments LLC. Two of the principal members are here with me tonight, Mr. Glenn LaPointe and Mr. Glenn LaPointe Jr. Just a quick recap, as you know, we filed in December for a site plan for 8 one-bedroom units at the property which is now known as 198 Center Avenue. In January 8th, this board had a hearing for site plan review and for the issuance of a special permit. The special permit was to allow 100% residential use in this district, the Transit-Oriented Development District, or the TOD District. The board voted on January 8th to issue that special permit, and you had asked us to go come back with the site plan with some updated details, information. There aren't any really major changes to the site plan as far as the parking lot or buildings, but there were some details that we were requested from both the board and through Norwood Engineering's review letter that was issued for that meeting. I should also mention, I'm sorry, Stephanie Hoban is here from Strong Point Engineering Solutions. She was with us at the last meeting. Stephanie has submitted the updated site plan, multiple sheets with the layout plan, the grading and drainage plan, the landscape plan and such, and she's here if there's any technical questions. Also, just to review, some of the things that we added in this updated site plan is the extra lamp post, which was suggested in the far corner of the parking lot. We rotated the mailbox where it's located near the front door. You had requested some additional drainage details, some notes to be added to the plan. We also have submitted a drainage report, which is 199 pages of very detailed data. We revised and updated the landscaping sheet, which you have in your possession. There's updated elevations showing what the building might look like or would look like upon approval. And just to remind you that the zoning board has also issued the requested variances to allow the setback to place the building where it's shown on the site plan. The fire department has approved the layout of the driveways, the width of the driveways, location of the parking lot, and the water commissioners have also approved the water service for these 8 one-bedroom units. So we're well on our way, and Norwood Engineering has since issued a second review letter dated January 31st, after reviewing Strong Point Engineering's responses to the first review letter, and it has now been, the comments and recommendations have been whittled down to 8 comments, and I believe some of them we can address tonight and resolve. And if you don't mind, I'll just go through there's just 8 brief ones. The first one just confirming that the planning board should review the proposed architecture, which we can do tonight. The second and third one, the second one just kind of reconfirms that we still need to go through the permitting process with, to the Conservation Commission, and we need to return back to the zoning board as we explained in our application. We're going to the Conservation Commission for the sole fact that there are wetlands in the far back of this property. We're not filling any wetlands, but our retention area actually will be within 100 feet of the edge of the wetlands out back. So we'll be filing a notice of intent, but we did not want to do that until we obtain site plan review from the planning board, because we intend to take this site plan and submit it to the Conservation Commission. Likewise, we would do the same by submitting this updated site plan to the zoning board. I mentioned we've already been to the zoning board once, and that was for the setbacks variance approvals, which are granted. We now go back only because of the fact that this property is just in the outer edges of the Watershed Protection Overlay District. This is designed, it's an overlay district designed to protect the Myers Avenue wells. Even though this is on the north side of Center Ave and the Myers Ave wells are on the south side of Summer Street, this overlay district, this property originally wasn't in the overlay district until the zoning was amended several years ago, and they actually amended the line of where the outer boundaries of the overlay district was, and lo and behold, this property is now in that overlay district. That just requires us to get certain special permits now from the zoning board. Any sort of construction of any type really has to go get a special permit, a special permit, because you're in the watershed protection district. For example, and one of the reasons we're going, in the transitional oriented development district, we can have, I believe it's up to 60% lot coverage, and we have 43%, 34%. So we comply with our zoning bylaw. But when you then look at the overlay district, the watershed protection overlay district, anything more than 15% of lot coverage needs to be reviewed by the zoning board for a special permit, because it's just a heightened level of review because you're in that watershed protection, that they want to make sure that you have proper drainage, you are using groundwater recharge, but you're also not creating or bringing new pollutants to the area. Obviously, residential uses are not a concern that a gas station or a landscaping facility might be with fertilizers and such. That would be a whole different concern. So we will be just submitting the same use. The zoning board's already aware of what we're planning because they've seen the initial site plan, but we do have to go back to them and show them that our stormwater management has been approved by the town's review engineer. We fully expect it and hope that they will approve the special permits under that watershed protection bylaw. I reached out to the water superintendent, and we've asked to have a meeting with her next week to personally review everything so that she's content and understands what we're doing and more specifically what we're not doing, that it's just a residential use. Coincidentally, the fact that we're closer to the pond, Island Grove Pond, than we are to the wells. But the watershed protection district is only concerned with the wells and not the pond. The pond is the wetlands protection bylaw, which is why we're going to the Conservation Commission. So that was recommendations 2 and 3, just reminding the planning board that we will be going to the Conservation Commission and back to the zoning board. Number 4 was that soil testing should be done in the areas of excavation prior to construction to confirm the high groundwater, which we agreed to. It's a standard construction condition. 5, 6, 7, and 8. Number 5 was, at the last meeting, it was recommended that we increase the size of the catch basin in the larger parking lot to a double catch basin, which we have done on the submitted plan. After reviewing the submitted updated plan, Norwood has now recommended that we also double the size of catch basin number 3, which is over here, behind the 2 family. So catch basin 2, which was already at increases rate on this parking lot, catch basin 3 is on this parking lot. Not an issue to us. The drainage calcs, as I said, Stephanie did 199 pages of drainage calculations pretty thoroughly. In addition, in that comment 5, it says, furthermore, confirmation that this catch basin is a storm scepter unit shall be submitted. On sheet C3 in our drainage sheet, note 9 does say that we will be using a storm scepter unit or an acceptable equal. So that's already implemented into our plan, so we don't have any issue with that. We will add the second catch basin, and that'd be submitted back to Dave for approval before we can get a building permit. Number 6 was the radii of the driveway entrances at the public way, which is on Center Avenue. We are not calling for vertical granite curbing. We're calling for Cape Cod berm. And Dave has asked if it should be vertical granite curbing. We would submit that it doesn't make any sense really in this regard, and it's also not in keeping with the neighboring properties. And I just brought some photos to show you.
Thanks.
You guys share one? Yeah, this is
Yep.
Under ADA requirements, as you know, you need to have ramps where there are crosswalks or driveways. And currently, the existing sidewalk in front of 198 does have ramps like all of the other properties across the street and along the street. And we are proposing, if you look at our site plan, we're moving our driveway intersection and widening it according to the zoning bylaw. We are going to put in ramps coming down from the sidewalk elevation down to the driveway or street elevation. So the fact that you're bringing the ramp down means the curbing is not visible because we're going down to street level. I showed you a photo there on the first page of what's existing, and you can see how it's basically a continued sidewalk which ramps down at the driveway. And that bottom photo on page 1 is the actual intersection at Quincy Street. And it's kind of a good example of what our driveway might look like, where it's going to be ramps coming as the sidewalk approaches the driveway. It basically decreases down to driveway level. And as you can see, you don't see vertical curbing where the ramp comes down to the street for obvious purposes. You don't want to put a bump or a barrier in an ADA ramp. On site, we have Cape Cod berm throughout. So that's what we're proposing to continue to use. Once that ADA ramp rounds the corner into or towards our driveway, interior of our driveway, we would then pick it up with Cape Cod berm. That kind of finishes it off, and it also allows us to channel the water into the stormwater management system. And I'll just move on with 7 and 8. We can go back and talk about any of these. Number 7 was detailed proposed yard area with landscape features should be added to the landscaping plan. The updated landscaping plan has been submitted to show you the location of substantial number of trees and bushes, the yard area right adjacent to the building. There's also open space out beyond the parking lot towards the pond. We're not proposing anything out towards the pond. We're kind of leaving it in its natural condition nearest the pond. The yard area behind, we've just labeled as yard area. We're not proposing to put any structures in there. There is a bicycle rack nearby, but basically we thought an open yard is better. Like, we're not going to call out a picnic table or something like that. Just having the green space does 2 things. Gives the people who live there a little space to do what they want to do, but it also provides pervious surfaces, so when it rains, it helps recharge the water. So a little more greenery in that area we think is nice. And then number 8, the design engineer shall confirm that no stormwater runoff from Center Avenue will enter onto Lot 2. And we can confirm that is true. Stephanie can confirm it if need be, but if you look at the elevations and topography of our site plans, any water that is coming off of Center Ave towards the gutter or the sidewalk will not come down our driveway onto our property just because of the way it's designed. It would continue to channel down Center Ave into the street drains, and any rainwater that actually fell onto our driveway would be then channeled into our drainage system. So we think we can, these conditions of 5, 6, 7, 8 can be addressed tonight or have been resolved with our updated plans. The planning board needs to review the updated architectural elevations, but then there would be conditions 2, 3, and 4 would, I would assume, be part of your decision should the board be in a position to approve this tonight, which we hope you will be. As I mentioned, the LaPointes are here and Stephanie Hoban is here if you have any questions. We think it's a nice plan, a good plan, and it's the type of use that is intended for the Todd district, which is in walking distance from our commuter rail station.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. Before I open this up to the board, I just want to ask Mr. Johnson, David, do you have any comments on Mr. Riley's adjustments, please?
No, as usual, Mr. Riley seems to cover all my points, so I don't have much to say. But, yeah, I would concur with their response. I still believe that there should be some type of detail and evaluation of the driveway entrances and how, even with the Cape Cod berm, it's going to relate to the elevation of the sidewalks. It may be simple as, instead of putting in, if you notice on some of the ADA ramps that are built, there is a granite, flush granite border which the ramp goes down into. So it may be as simple as putting a D-stone at the entrance on the existing vertical curb, but I think that it's something we can do to evaluate. There's no reason for the board to get into that kind of minutia at this point. I do believe, though, and I think it's something that the board can see, we've recommended that as part of the project that they reconstruct the sidewalk on Quincy Street. And if you look at the picture that they have, you can see there's really unraveled curb and edge of the sidewalk. So I think that if they were to put in vertical curb here as part of this project, it may help on one of my previous comments, which was the grading of the sidewalk and how the elevation of the sidewalk relates to the entrance of the building and the sidewalk going into the building. So I think, at least at that location, there should be a commitment to do at least a design plan to show how vertical curb would improve the entrance to that side of the building. But really, the only major issue that needs to be resolved, which is the one that received a lot of discussion at the last meeting, was the architectural elevation of the building and how that relates to that section of the bylaw and how it relates to the expectations of the planning board based upon what has been built in the town. And so I think that's really the crux of what needs to be addressed at this point.
You all set there?
Yep, other than that, they've addressed all of my concerns. And we can discuss between us how the intersections of the driveway and Center Ave would relate.
Thank you. Open this up to board discussion now. Comments, please?
We got a couple. Going back to the sidewalks piece of this, I guess I'm just lost. What are you asking to do?
Well, I'm asking them to come up with a design where the intersection of the proposed driveway with Center Avenue, they're showing you a picture of just right now, the existing driveway. The pavement comes out and just stops.
Yeah.
At the back of the sidewalk. Well, on their plan, they're showing radii on all sides of these driveways, and suggesting that some type of design with a hardened granite curb, maybe the word shouldn't be vertical, but they're proposing just a bituminous curb along these radii. And so the bituminous curb is going to have a back on it that's, 3 inches high. So they're going to need to grade out the sidewalks on either of those intersections. So they really should be looking at taking the granite that's in Center Ave at the sidewalk and bring that in, and if it has to come down flush, where the sidewalk and the driveway cross, on the other side of the driveway coming in, there should be some sections of vertical curb in there that would tie in with the Cape Cod berm that they're proposing.
I guess I should have been more specific. The you was, I was referring to Sean. Like, what do you?
Huh?
I think what
The question was actually for Sean, but that's a very helpful explanation.
Yeah, I think I
too.
understand what Dave's saying, kind of like a transition, right? Like a threshold you
Yeah.
see in a door, right?
Right.
Yeah, I don't think we have a problem with that. So I think Stephanie can draw up a detail of just what Dave is describing, where the sidewalk would come in, would go down, but instead of just having basically sidewalk pavement meet our driveway pavement, there would be a delineated, what do I call it, granite strip there, which would allow, the two to butt up against each other, but not to kind of wash each other out or.
So like a
create
transition?
seam. Yeah, not create a seam there between asphalt, but instead have the granite to protect the sidewalk and to protect the driveway.
Because with the Cape Cod berm, you're gonna have to raise the sidewalk anyway to meet the back of the berm.
Yeah, so it eliminates that little bump there.
So I guess, what, are you looking to do anything to the sidewalk that goes from the entrance down towards Quincy Street?
No, that's in decent shape. That actually is vertical granite curbing along Center Avenue. And then when it makes the turn onto Quincy Street, there's only sidewalk on our side of Quincy Avenue, Quincy Street, where we've already agreed and we will rebuild the sidewalk from the intersection down through our driveway.
Yeah.
And as Dave said, we'll submit a detail on that because there may be a reason to raise it up in order to more easily adjust the topography as you get to our entrance of our building.
All right. Just, I guess I was thrown off by saying there is no exposed vertical granite curbing on that photo.
Which photo is that?
Yeah, on Quincy Street, there's no curbing.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's what I misunderstood, okay.
Right.
All right.
We're just suggesting they add that as part of the condition we, in our last review, that suggested that they reconstruct that sidewalk.
Yeah, the picture I show you of the Quincy Street sidewalk, it shows that already down the
Yeah,
road on
that's
Quincy
down the
is pretty
street.
bad shape. The part that's along our property is in horrible shape. It
Right,
needs to
it's
be
not
ripped
there.
out and redone.
Right. On a side note, I'd certainly like to figure out if some of the other properties on Center Ave went a little crazy with not having any sort of curbing on their properties, on their frontage.
I just one comment on that. It used to be the standard that you didn't put radii in the driveways, you would just have the sidewalk come and then ramp straight down with one piece of the transition curb.
Yeah.
DOT has shifted, and at least with all DOT-related projects, they make you now put in full radii,
Okay.
which comes with a whole different design of how to do your handicap ramps now.
You said water department's already approved the request for water for the site.
Correct.
Was there any already allocated to a property from a previous project or something? Usually we keep hearing that there's wait lists and whatnot, so I didn't know how this was freed up.
So I don't want to speak for the water department, but in the last several months, they've been doing a pretty thorough review of all the projects that they've either
Yeah.
have approved and constructed and connected,
Yeah.
have improved and not yet connected, or have improved and no building permit has been pulled from anywhere from 6 months to 5 years.
Yeah.
And they've reached out to some of these older projects to say, listen, we set aside, pick a number, 5,000 gallons for you. Are you going to use it? If not, we're going to pass it on to others. They also noted, frankly, that on their spreadsheets they had, there was some projects that were counted, double counted. So they had come up and were confident that they had, the number was something over 60,000 gallons of available water for projects that were, for lack of a better word, coming down the pipeline. And so they just said, file your application. These smaller projects, 8 one-bedroom units, weren't much of a concern for this. So we did, we went through their meeting and they approved this.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that was the question, is I know they've been working on figuring out what they actually have and going through all the paperwork going back years, so I guess that's the.
Yeah, and with all these approvals now, what they're doing too is putting a timetable on it, that you need to connect within a year or 2 years, and if you need an extension, come back to us. That way they don't lose track and it doesn't just float out there, you know, 5 years, 10 years unused.
The space between the parking lot and the backyard of the house on Quincy Street?
Yep.
What's the treatment there? It's a little bit of a short wall and then a fence on top, or?
The backyard of the Quincy Street house? Yeah. When we started this in December, there was a fence along, if you're looking at the Quincy Street house, along the right side of the house and the back side. That house has been foreclosed upon several months ago. That fence is now gone. They took it down. We didn't take it down. Our proposal, that fence was actually partially on our property. It didn't follow the property line, so we were gonna remove it. It was junk. We're required to put up a new fence anyhow, because it's multifamily next to single family, put up a fence. So we're gonna be putting up a solid fence in that same location, along the side yard and along the backyard of that property. Our parking lot will be elevated approximately 3 feet, I think, maximum. So what we were talking to the building inspector was one of two things. We can put a 7-foot fence there. 6 foot is the typical fence. We could apply for his permission to put an 8-foot fence, or we could just simply raise the bottom of the fence up a little bit. So I think it's gonna be one of those things that we're going to build a retaining wall and then kind of eyeball and say what fence would look nicest, not really as much for us, but for the future owner of that house. And we want to make sure that our fence does the job it's supposed to do, which frankly is to block any headlights from going into their yard. 6-foot fence may or may not do it. I think a 7-foot fence, you're a little bit more comfortable with, especially with SUVs or pickup trucks, things like that.
What sort of buffer is between the parking spaces and the fence?
Not much at all. The fence is going to be basically right along the property line, as it's shown on the plan. Then it comes off, and we have the retaining walls. There's putting a guardrail along the top of the on the top of the retaining walls. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of these details. As it turns, there's more space over here. We allocated a space in the corner for green space and for snow storage. And then along the side fence here, there's the grass area, and there's a row of a couple of different trees and such that are shown on the landscape plan.
Liz or Dave, we don't have any minimum requirements for separation between parking lots and backyards, property lines? It's 3 feet, that's it? Okay.
Or maybe 5.
I was gonna say it must be 5.
It's usually times 5, yeah.
There's a bylaw about separating parking lots from streets, which is different.
No, and also
No.
from
Yeah.
residential, I think it's 5 feet, so we moved so that we had a slight redesign so that we made sure that the pavement was pushed more than 5 feet off of the property line.
We sat down
We
with...
talked about that the last time.
Yeah, and we sat down with the building inspector about this too, because we wanted to kind of cover the fence height issue, the guardrail safety issue, and then the aesthetics of it all.
Do you know how many trees were removed when this lot was cleared?
I have no idea. Do you?
No, most of the stuff was just scrub.
Scrub?
Yeah, it was
Yeah, it was a little.
overgrowth for the most part up front. Used to be a yard area.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some...
Our bylaw does require that being marked now.
Yes.
That's trees over a certain diameter.
There were some trees, and there will be some trees. We were talking to the Colidis, who live on the second house in Quincy Street, and they were wondering which trees and how the fence is going to be. We are planting more trees, so that whatever we're going to try to preserve whatever the larger ones are out there, as long as they're not in the way of their fence or our parking lot. Anything that comes down, we're still planting. I forget what the grand total was, but it is on your landscape plan.
But right now, yeah, I think right now you're proposing 6 trees?
So I don't remember.
Yep. It's more than
6.
6 of the flowering trees, and there's more evergreen.
Okay. And the flowering trees are over 25 feet? When mature, not when
Yes.
planted.
What are they, maidenhair? Is that the maidenhair?
All right.
I think your bylaw is,
It's 1 for 3?
yeah, so if we're planting, theoretically, if you did the math, we would be allowed to cut down 18 trees. I don't think there are 18 trees on that property right now.
Yeah. So I'm just making sure.
And I don't think we cut down 18 6-inch trees either.
Yeah.
Not on that property.
Lastly, thank you for the changes to design. It looks, I think, just remarkably better. So I did take a walk out there, and I was kind of surprised how big that yard really is. There's a lot of space back there. How come you chose to go, I guess, right up on the street versus either going out back from the existing house or even tearing down the house and just doing one larger building that heads out back? What was the thought process with putting one on the corner?
The zoning bylaw. Under the TOD district,
Has to be
all
on the
parking
street.
has to be in the rear. The mixed use or commercial buildings are allowed as of right and shall be within 5 feet of the street. And that's why to
So I was
go the
wondering.
residential, we had to get the variance in your special permit to allow us to do a residential building in that same location. But we would need another variance to put a building out back. And in addition, the Watershed Protection Overlay District bylaw
Yeah.
also, I want to say requires, but it prefers to have open retention basins instead of underground storm scepter units.
Yeah.
It likes to have I forget the phrase they call it, but basically the open air water recharge. So with that recharge area, that retention area is out in the rear in that lawn area.
And additionally, putting the building back there, you'd be putting it closer to the resource areas, which
Okay.
is just a whole other, you want to keep as much grass between any sort of development and the resource areas as possible.
Can I just ask a quick question? What's the advantage of having this open air recharge?
She needs to get up if she's
Oh,
going to.
yes, please.
Yeah.
Yes,
Thank you.
So the advantage to having open air is, one, you can see how it's functioning. Two, you can see if it's dirty and needs to be cleaned out. It just adds, it's easier to maintain, it's easier to build. It's, overall, they're better, it'll work forever as long as it's maintained. Right now, everyone uses the underground chambers, so they've kind of been in use for maybe 30 years or so. And as far as people know, they are still working after 30 years, but if you just have a retention basin, as long as it's maintained in open air, it will continue to work.
A
The
lot
other
of,
thing, the two things, it promotes recharge, which is a big factor. Number two, it provides an area for mitigation of the water quality.
Yeah.
Nutrients and pollutants are taken up by the grass and addressed, I'm not into the science of it, but the soils provide some type of mitigation of the stormwater runoff, and it promotes the recharge.
Yeah, the
Whereas
reason
if you discharge to a subsurface system, it's closer to the water table.
And it sits more in the gravel than it does going through all of the.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes people have a bad image of these open air things because they get filled with trash, they're not maintained.
They were also, before they revised the drainage regulations, and I think it was 2008, they were not designed as well. And they were often, basically became like disgusting mosquito basins. But they updated how you design them and how long water is allowed to sit in them. stuff like that, so that they'll not become the eyesores that they used to be.
That's why I raised this question, because of the experience that we've had in the past with more poorly designed systems and things like that. But it's good to know that the regulations have been updated and that these are better systems now. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I mean, with all the rain we've had the last month or so, we didn't have any flooding problems that I know of due to the retention basins, or else just because if there wasn't water issues, because they get blocked for the most part.
Right, to Stephanie's point, I know the board knows, but anyone who's watching, the contemporary designed open-air basins are designed, will require that they must drain within 72 hours?
Yes.
72 hours, so there's not, it's not just a standing pond of water, which you might see in one that was built 30 years ago.
Again, another reason why I brought that, that's an image that a lot of people have had of these things in the past. And I just wanted to reinforce in the people who are watching this, and hopefully the people watching this are pretty informed people, but just to reinforce that. So thank you. Anything else?
Just good to know that the place has already been built. There are parking in the front and the side, so they're not even using the parking we provided out back for them. They just park in the front and the side anyway.
Jeff, Mr.
No, I'm all
Shepherd,
set.
do you have any comments?
I do not.
How about you, Rick? Jeff, excuse me.
No, I'm all set.
Okay. Is there anyone from the public here who would like to speak on this? Okay, I guess it's time to make a motion to
Close the
public hearing. Would someone like to make a motion to close the public hearing, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
And our next act is to
To approve this.
approve this with the recommendations in the February, excuse me,
January 31st
31st,
letter.
thank you. Thank you.
And
Can I
do you
just
want
add?
them to also approve the stormwater plan that was submitted?
Well, I wanted to ask that the final approval not list all 8 of the recommendations, because we have addressed some of them now. So it would just be recommendations.
It will include all of them, because I put in the date of the plan, and then I put in all the conditions.
Oh, I don't mind you putting the date of the plan, but the reason I ask this is so the building inspector can use as a reference to make, as a checklist. So he's gonna say, the planning board, number one, did the planning board approve the architecture? Well,
He
if it's
never
not,
does.
if it, well,
They
I don't
make
know.
me, I know, they make me sign, they make somebody come up and sign the building permit
I check all
application.
of those before Liz signs off on the building permit.
Okay. Then, all right, I just don't want confusion that these are
No, no.
outstanding issues.
No,
if
this
they're
is what
being
we do
resolved.
every time. They check me off in OpenGov and say, we need an approval.
Okay.
And I go to
I'll
Dave
call
and
you if I
say,
have a
did they
problem."
get that plan to us? I don't remember.
But to your point, then, if you include all 8 conditions, with the condition that the applicant will submit details for the final curbing design at the driveway entrance and along Quincy Street. I believe that was, right?
Yeah.
To Norwood Engineering, prior to the issuance of a building permit.
Dave?
Pardon me?
How soon would you like to see those?
Whenever
Doesn't
they
make
want to
any
get a
difference.
building permit.
Prior
Which
to
will
a
probably
building-
be pretty quick, right, guys?
All right.
Anytime.
Right?
So do you want me to also include that the stormwater is approved, just in case anybody's specifically looking to make
Yes,
sure
so-
that the stormwater was approved?
Good.
My previous discussions with Sean was, we're going to be writing a separate recommendation to the Board of Appeals in greater detail to address the specific items listed in
Okay, great.
the overlay zone.
Oh, yeah, but for the Conservation Commission and for anybody further down the road?
No, for the,
I know, but for further down the road, like 10 years from now, somebody's gonna go,
Yeah.
that stormwater ever get approved? And I'm gonna go, I don't know.
If
Let's look at the
you want to
decision letter.
somehow
I'm gonna throw it in
incorporate
there.
it into, like, the stormwater as shown on the, stormwater management system as shown on the plan,
Yes.
great. If Norwood Engineering is
If you
kind
wanna
enough.
do a separate letter,
to issue a
that's
separate
fine
letter,
too,
that would
but-
be,
yeah.
But in 10 years, it'll be obsolete. You'd have to do a whole
Right,
nother.
so somebody else is gonna have to go online
Yeah.
and look for this information.
Right.
I'd rather have it in the letter.
Well, it'll be in the zoning board of appeals decision.
Personally, I'm not
Yes.
Was
No?
the approval of the final stormwater in relation to the overlay district will be covered in the zoning board of appeals decision approving the stormwater.
I think when she's saying inherently by approving the site plan, we're also,
They can't approve the stormwater under the stormwater bylaw. They're not a stormwater management approval authority. They can grant a special permit for work in that district, but the approval of the stormwater has to be done by these guys or their designee.
Yep, and
So I'm just trying to,
we can put that in there. If you want a separate letter, can do a separate, or if you want to put it in there, however you want to do it. Do you believe that approval of the plan constitutes approval of the stormwater?
yes, because they didn't do a separate stormwater
Right.
review.
That's what you've done in the past.
Right.
Approval of the plan is approval of the stormwater. And we've suggested that if there are any changes to the stormwater
and Liz,
by the Board of Appeals or Conservation, that
They need to come
they
back
would return with
to the
those revised
stormwater
plans.
permitting authority.
Yeah.
Okay,
and Liz, if I could ask, because of that stormwater bylaw, you're right, you bring up a good point,
right.
that we need to include that phrase, that language, that the site, that the stormwater design conforms to the minimum standards of the stormwater bylaw or whatever.
Yes.
We needed to have that now in future decisions,
Yeah,
because in the stormwater bylaw, this project is exempted from going to the stormwater committee if we have a decision from this board that says the stormwater's been approved,
was approved in the context of the site plan approval.
which you both have the same standards.
Right, right.
But you need to say that in the decision now.
Right, which we haven't been doing,
Right.
and we need to, Jason just went to, 500 days of stormwater training, so, and he's gonna be that person.
Okay.
So if we're gonna start this, we need to start where everybody's on the same playing field. And then it's documented,
That's a good word, context.
right?
Yes.
Okay. Just move along.
And, hold on, please, I've been writing away.
I know.
Um,
I just want to see what the motion basically going to look like right now.
Yeah, I can't even read it back to you at this
And
point.
No, I don't expect you to read it back.
All right,
Just
but-
give us the Reader's Digest version.
So in the reconstruction of Quincy Street is included on the plan, so I don't need to include that as a separate,
Is it?
it's on the plan, okay. And that the building owner is responsible for the operation and management, really the whole stormwater kit and caboodle. I won't use kit and caboodle, but that whoever owns the property is responsible for the stormwater. And I hate to even say this, but that the lighting, lighting bylaw, because I have a problem right now with light shedding onto somebody else's property.
Yep.
And they said, but you guys approved the lighting plan.
Yep.
So you're going to confirm right now that the lighting complies with the bylaw and there won't be any light shed onto adjacent properties for me?
It's condition of the
Thank
building
you.
permit, yep.
Okay, you ready?
Is that all right with you guys?
Well, I'm just going to,
Certainly.
did everyone get that?
Right?
It's only a 60-watt bulb.
Right.
Right?
Okay. Would someone
I know,
would someone like to make a motion to approve
Grant the site plan approval, the
Grant
plan
approval.
dated 12/8/23, revised 1/18/24, contingent upon the resolution of the items in the Norwood Engineering letter dated 1/31/24, and that the stormwater plans contained in the site plan application are approved as well. I'll clean that up. And that the applicant is going to add a design plan to see how the vertical granite curbing improves the entrance to Quincy Street. And they're reconstructing the sidewalk on Quincy Street, but that's on the plan, so I don't need to include that. That the lighting plan complies and that the building owner is responsible for the on-site stormwater.
Is that it?
And you'll throw in that magic language about how
About any approval that the
this conforms to the minimum standards of the stormwater
conforms to the
management
minimum
bylaw.
standards in that if,
I'm personally looking
under your
forward-
special permit,
I'm looking
when you go
forward-
to the zoning
I'm
board of
looking forward
appeal,
to
if it
reading
changes, you'll
this
come back.
motion. Okay, everyone get that? Would someone like to make that motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all for your work
Thank
on
you.
this.
Thank you,
David,
Mr.
did you
Johnson,
go
for
home?
your work on this.
When are you planning to file with Conservation and Board of Appeals?
Board of Appeals, by this Thursday is their deadline, so, and if you don't have a letter ready by that, I can file it as a supplement.
Is there any reason why they need to authorize that? Do they have to authorize you
Oh,
to
you to
prepare
write-
that
did-
letter? Or are you requesting it as part of your file?
Does the planning board need to authorize you? Is that what you're asking?
No.
Or does the zoning board have to
Zoning
authorize?
board.
Oh, I'm just requesting, if you can write that, that would be helpful, and for the same reason, we're gonna talk to the water superintendent. I think she'll be very satisfied, because we've done everything we can to protect wetlands and the watershed. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rowley.
Deposit.
Good luck with your project.
I just sent you.
I know you did.
Are they over? I'm sure they are.
They're still on there.
Okay.
Yep.
Because it's better than
But we still have this.
All right, please send me a copy of it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. Good night. I'll talk to you about Mr. Crane.
Yeah, Ann wants to go too.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Hi, Dave.
All right, David.
Gentlemen?
All right.
Want to go back to minutes?
Sure.
All right.
I have a personal correction in the minutes, but talk
Paying
about.
attention. Are you paying attention?
Yes, yes, sir. The spelling of the chairman's name was, my wife said, "Don't do this," but I'm going to do this. Just so that.
Just telling you, that's probably a bad idea.
But let the minutes reflect my correction, the correct spelling of my last name, please.
Yep.
Anybody else got anything else on the minutes?
Yeah.
January 8th? One,
Yes.
can we vote that in two parts, because I can't vote on part of it? Or I'll just not vote on it at all?
You can vote on the minutes. Is this the one where we started that hearing?
Center of you.
I think I have in here that you recused yourself.
Yeah,
So you
that
can
was-
vote on the minutes?
That was
as-
where I wanted to just, that specific part. So in the kind of preamble here of who was present, I'm designated as RS. In public hearing, site plan, special permit, RS explained he isn't a butter. Now, you were referring to Bob.
Right, which
But
I'm usually.
RS, this says it was me.
Ah,
He's
No pun
BS.
intended.
You're BS.
Right.
Right? So he's the Bob, and then when
You see what I'm saying?
I do, so one more page. That should be this.
And then later, motion to grant special permit by the 4 members voting, parentheses, BS abstained. So
Yeah.
BS is identified correctly in subsequent references.
Everything, anyone else? Any more comments? Okay, can I get a motion to accept these as amended?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
And then the 29th?
And now we've got the November 29th. These were the minutes of January 8th. Any comments, corrections on the January 29th minutes?
Motion approved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Do we have any Form As tonight, Liz?
We do not.
All right. Do we have any correspondence?
The correspondence we have, I think I shared with a few of the board members earlier, was from Kevin Fleming, who is the engineer for 207 Bedford Street. And that was the project that was withdrawn in December or January. I can't actually remember when they withdrew that project. But anyway, he sent along an email with 2 plans attached, and it was addressed to myself, their attorney, Chris Hardy at the fire department, Dave Johnson, Marion Warren Ryan, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And he had some general comments about parking calculations and reduction of the plan. They've gone to 5 units. And the fire department got back to him and said that it didn't conform to the fire department's, the state laws regarding fire departments. And I responded to him and said that the planning board does not do informal site plan reviews. And he emailed me back and said the applicant requests the town peers review engineer from Norwood Engineering review and comment at this stage. So
Has he filed a new application or not?
he has not. So, and that's what I told him, that you guys don't do informal site plan review. But I told him I would ask you tonight. And I think the general consensus is that's a no. Which I'm happy to, if that's a consensus, I'm happy to share with you that with him tomorrow. Okay.
Granted, you know, we have done it in the past, but this is a different circumstance.
Well, and you guys have done it for sketch plans for subdivisions, not
yes.
on site
Right.
plan stuff necessarily.
Right.
I think that just leaves
We've got
some zoning.
175-40A, 175-35,
Right.
175-6, review of
Yes.
multifamily housing design guidelines. We've got the annual report.
You've got some fun stuff ahead of you.
So we've got a lot of stuff.
What would you like to do?
Let's start with the review and discuss proposed 3 zoning changes.
Okay.
And let's start with 175-40A, multifamily overlay district.
All right, you got a copy of this last week at the hearing. This was drafted by Judy Barrett of the Barrett Group. I have emailed the fire department about the space between 2 principal buildings on a lot. Marion Warren Ryan did go through this and got back to me, and she thought it should be 50 feet. I'm still waiting to hear from the fire department on what that distance is. I didn't know if you guys had any comments or anything else to add to this before I send it off to town council. We really can't modify the density and dimensional regulations too much because that creates the compliant zoning district.
I see that Mr. Shepherd has a rather marked up copy of it.
When you first sent this out, this was probably, what, a month ago, maybe more, and I had stopped by and we talked a little bit about different parts of this, and I remember some of what that conversation was. For example, item 11 under stormwater management, it references DEP, stormwater management standards, et cetera, but absent is any reference to the town of Abington stormwater,
So we need to add that.
I think.
Yep.
Certainly, it's, a lot of what we've got is predicated upon these other standards, but there should be our standards as well. One question on item 9, shared outdoor space. Was there anything from OCPC or perhaps any other members of the board? The statement is just that multifamily housing shall have a common outdoor space that all residents can access. Ground floor, courtyard, rooftop. No indication of what the configuration of that space should be or how large it should be. So I guess the concern that I'd have is that this kind of opens up the notion of a postage stamp outdoor space in the absence of any other stipulation.
Right.
It would seem if we're going to go to the trouble of telling them that we want a shared outdoor space, then it'd probably be good to have some guidance here as to
Yeah, I'll send that
how
back
much,
to her.
how much we would want that to, or how big we would want that to be.
Probably a percentage of the
Something like
overall
that, yeah,
footprint,
yep.
or if there's multiple floors and they're looking at a rooftop terrace. And I think the other thing that I thought of afterwards was compliance with our tree bylaw, our
Yeah.
tree canopy bylaw, under plantings.
Is that online, in our online version? Has it been added to our online version yet?
Oh, no, the one on general code, no.
Okay,
That's out of my hands, it is added to our website.
okay. Is this the entirety of the bylaw?
Yep.
Alright. Are we going to add anything about design? Because there's nothing in here about design now.
There is not.
Well, that
So,
very last section
that you guys can adopt something later on.
simply says that.
Where, what page is that on?
That's
The
the
very
last
last
page?
page, the very bottom.
About design guidelines, section I.
I don't have, I don't have a section I. Oh, that's why, yeah, I don't have it.
I only have this in it too.
Yeah.
Can you go make one copy of yours downstairs?
And this was the follow-up email back that I had sent over after our last meeting. I
Yeah.
copied on
Make a
that,
couple of copies of
Yeah.
that.
just
Why
saying
don't you
that
make that?
that's certainly something we would want to do, I think.
Yeah, so I guess,
So here's where we are. Kevin went through and found some Cape Cod multifamily housing design guidelines. He also found one for a larger community that was probably less Abington, less New England style architecture. And then we both went to the One Stop Grant portal today.
there's a lot of stuff in there.
Right, so we could probably get grant money to do this because, as we all know, they're helping you any way they can with MBTA communities. So
That'd be great.
we could probably get grant monies for somebody to do this.
Yep.
My concern at this point is, what if we don't adopt that zoning district? And we have to go back to the drawing board and say it goes to the airbase. Well, they have their own design guidelines. So I don't know what to say. I mean, I think maybe if we put this off a little bit,
What I'd like to suggest is, I'd like to have something in place until we handle this piece. So can we say, we'll abide by, because we have specific design language.
right, that we already
Yeah.
have.
We'll abide by this, may be superseded at a future time by, if the board adopts additional design guidelines.
Look at that, I had New England architecture already written down.
So basically, we give them a floor of what's currently already worded. And then we, gives us the right to kind of say, no, we're gonna adopt some things later. And honestly, I've kind of been kicking around this idea, anyway, of
Isn't that
having a
nice?
design guideline
Right?
for a town, based on kind of what we saw with the Southfield stuff. Like, I think it might be worth us going around and taking photos of the buildings we like and saying, no, this is kind of what we prefer.
So that's actually, they call that a lookbook.
Yeah,
And we have been talking about getting that done. It's just, as you know, we're trying to get all of this stuff done first.
Yeah.
And then those guidelines would be reflected in a lookbook. What are you guys looking for developers to build?
yeah.
So we were gonna go take pictures of multi-family buildings anyway.
Yeah.
So I think the Woodlands is nice.
Yep.
What else do you guys think we should take pictures of that would be, at least if they were looking for some general ideas? If somebody came in and said, we want to build something here.
For residential?
Just for this
Okay.
zoning district
Yeah.
right now, for
Yeah.
this multifamily zoning district. And we can work on a larger
Yeah.
town-wide design guideline maybe next year, for next
Yeah.
year's zoning meeting. But for right now, we can have that New England architecture in place, but maybe, because it's multifamily, have some stuff that's already built around town.
Yep.
Have pictures of that saying, this is what we like. Maybe some landscaping that we like. So I mean, there's Ivana, I haven't been in there in 100 years, so I'm not sure what that looks like.
121 Randolph Street.
121 Randolph Street?
Oh, definitely have the landscaping on that.
No, but we'll make, we'll work on the landscaping piece.
Can you put in 18 and 20 Everett Street? And I keep bringing this up, it's a duplex, but if you look at it, it's not like any duplex we have in town, it's gorgeous, and like, if we have more of these things, people would be chomping at the bit to build these things.
All right.
But I can give you a longer list later.
All right, if you want to send it to me and we'll take pictures and then you guys can pick at the March meeting what you like. I mean, I know because everybody wants landscaping included. I think maybe it's not finished yet, but Mr. Zaboski's project on Well Street, I go by that all the time.
Which one?
Steve Zaboski built that project next to Arnold Shoe Factory on Well Street.
Oh.
It's kind of the one that goes long and we saved that grove down at the end. Well, that was his premise, was saving that grove of trees at the
Still
end.
missing eye.
It's a very blue building.
The Adams Street one, Steve, what's his name?
Yeah, Steve
Adams
Goslin's.
Street.
Yeah. I like any Steve Goslin project, actually.
Can we just put all those carriage houses along Adams Street?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We want them to all look like this.
This is great. I mean, this is exactly what I'd be happy with. I mean, even, we're talking about downtown business districts, what Provincetown looks like with all the different architecture stuff. I mean, I think that's.
Well, does Rick have something different than, no, Rick, no, I'm still looking for art.
I'll have it here. Oh, wait.
Yeah, for some reason,
So, all right, so for the town
reason I
meeting,
was
we'll make it,
And you know what, now that you mention it, so this was the copy that I
121
had
Randolph,
from
it's not the
before.
architect.
This is the current copy
This
we
side of the
discussed?
houses.
It isn't.
it isn't in
Doesn't
there.
have, it doesn't have any landscape.
Yeah.
all right, so for right now,
Love this idea. Yeah.
all right, so we're gonna move forward with poking at this for next year, or maybe if we have a fall town meeting, if we're prepared enough to move forward. I just wanted to wait until the district gets adopted, so we really know what we're dealing with.
Yep.
Or okay having that floor of the current existing language.
Right, I will have her add that in here.
'Cause I
That,
swear-
currently, and then we can go back, because it's a zoning change, we'll do it at another town meeting and have the design guidelines.
So I swear if somebody comes in here with something that looks like South Weymouth, I'm
You're all done?
not gonna do it.
All right,
DOA.
Yeah.
all right. Any more comments on 175-48? Let's move on to 175-35, floodplain and wetlands protection.
Right, so I know it's everybody's favorite time when we're updating our FEMA floodplain map panels and our FIS. So part of this is the fact that Abington lies in two watershed districts, the Cape Cod Watershed District and the Charles River Watershed District, which is over by Rockland. I thought we'd scooch right through.
That's not the North River watershed, really? That flows to the Charles?
Flows all the way down here, through Rockland, Weymouth.
Okay.
Oh, that's what they're telling me. I did not get in the canoe and try to follow it.
Just as well.
So we adopted, as you remember, a couple of years ago, we updated our floodplain and wetland protection district bylaw 175-35. And so I thought we'd be all set with that, but we're not. We have a couple of changes we have to make in that, 3 to be exact. Minor changes, changing map dates and other language that FEMA MEMA wants. And then we have to update the map. I sent this off to,
Andrew?
no, with the FEMA,
Oh, FEMA, okay,
DCR FEMA,
okay.
my friend there that I can't remember his name right now, to go over this. I took out the FEMA panel numbers, and I just added the date. So we'll update the map, the zoning map with just the date, and the panels will be inclusive of that. I think we can do that.
That is such a hot topic, really, is updating those maps.
It is because they've promulgated a bunch of new state and federal guidelines and laws regarding watersheds and stormwater and all of that stuff, so it becomes bigger and bigger all the time.
I think we're going to be talking about that at the Citizens Planner Training Collaborative Conference.
Is that March 16th?
Yeah, I managed to work that into every conversation.
You certainly have.
Everyone should go. I don't get a commission on it either.
Yeah, you should.
But anyway.
So I really can't make any changes to those last two. That's language handed down from on high. But I wanted you guys to be aware that'll be included in your proposed zoning changes for town meeting.
All right.
Do we have visual map that we can hand out too?
I'm hoping.
Okay.
I have asked, and I think you printed some floodplain maps, some panel maps. Whatever the link they sent us, we have printed everything. The FIS, the flood insurance study, wasn't that like 500 pages? It's crazy. So there'll be one copy of that in this building, so I don't have to kill more trees.
You're not going to print a copy for each one of us?
I am not. I am not. I will provide you with the link, and you can
Geez.
get a hot cup of coffee and sit down and read the flood insurance study.
You know, we should really put the reference out there on this, just in case anyone watching this program.
It'll go up on the website. I wanted to make sure you guys knew what I was doing before I did it, so that stuff will head out to the website, and I'll do a hearing notice. And that was the other thing I wanted to confirm, that March 4th, your next meeting is okay to have that public hearing for MBTA communities and the FEMA stuff.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
All right, move on to the last one. See if the town will vote to amend the zoning map as follows. Delete the words that are struck through and replace with the points of italics. The zoning map of Abington shall include the following maps, so on and so forth.
Yeah, so that's it for that, and they'll head out to the website and the link, and all of that will be ready to go sooner rather than later.
What has happened, we're talking about it for a few years, a zoning map that can be read.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, you can't read the one we have.
It just looks like one of those ink blots, you gotta figure it out. But we're
The
gonna get
one online is better now. I uploaded
It is.
a better one. There are no streets on it, but you can read the districts because it's too tiny.
It's the streets I'm looking for.
I have one of those. It's an overlay thing, so yes, it's on our to-do list for this summer, actually, with OCPC to get a map done that everybody can read, that the streets are on. I don't know if we can keep lots on them, because then it makes it really almost unreadable.
Now, you should look at, I remember years ago, Town of Avon had an excellent set of assessors maps and things like that that included the streets and all that sort of thing. It was,
We do have that.
yeah, pretty amazing.
Yep, somebody does our assessors maps,
Yeah,
but
make some of those.
Pretty amazing.
that's not helpful with
No, no.
other stuff.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, before you get to the town report, I did have one other piece of correspondence. I gave copies to everybody in their packets, the letter from Carl Garvey,
You want to do that now?
if you don't mind. Oh, I
Okay.
did put it separately, sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Um,
I'll read this a little bit.
All right.
Carlton Garvey. Anyway, Abington Planning Board, Town Hall, Abington, Mass., RE 49 Lincoln Boulevard, Abington, to whom it may concern. Please find enclosed copy of plans showing minor revisions to the above location. The proposed work involves the removal of 6 to 7 trees along with boulder outcrops from 2 areas shown on this plan. The area will be then leveled and replaced with permeable crushed stone. This area will be then used for additional plant storage. Based on the limited amount of work being performed, this project should not warrant site plan review. Thank you for your consideration in the above matter.
So I'm guessing that they're asking that they're already gone?
It's not actually. As you recall, at our last meeting, I think I gave you, or I read you a letter from Mr. Lucione, that he wanted to do some work in that area, and you guys asked that he come in. And I called him to let him know that, and he didn't want to, so I asked him to put in an email, that I could send to you guys. And anyway, they called Carl Garvey, and he drafted this plan, and I think you all got a picture along with it of
The last
the
one,
site that what they're looking to take down, these two red areas.
those are the last trees in the lot.
Does our tree canopy bylaw apply to this?
I don't know why it would, I don't know how many trees are there. It appears there's 6, so that means they would have to replace it. They'd have to add 2 trees back, right?
Considering all the trees they removed earlier, I need to see a plan to, it's strange that an arbor like this is just cutting down all the trees. I would say they need to replace some of them somewhere.
Okay.
Tall ones, pretty ones with a canopy, not decorative.
It really, no, I agree, it looks like they're taking down like 3 trees.
6, 7 according to one of the maps.
Right, so 3 in each
Yep,
cope, so they would have to plant 2.
yep.
So 2 trees in accordance with our bylaw.
At least 2. They're welcome to plant more. And we encourage them to plant more.
Where do you think,
They have 2 acres there, I mean, they should be able to find a place for a couple trees.
just trying to get my bearings here, so. The bank is to the right, or where the bank used to be, I think.
This might make it easier, Liz. So Lincoln Boulevard here,
Oh, I'm looking at this.
and this is, yeah, this is where they came in before.
Yeah,
It's on the opposite side of the lot.
How about in the giant earth removal area they have out back?
I mean, it's kind of up to them. whether they want
it
to
is,
trees.
so they would just need to check back in with us and,
I guess my only comment, my only concern is, I wasn't part of the last time, I missed that meeting, is this, I've been on the board for quite a while, and this thing grows and grows and grows, and I haven't seen any drainage. I mean, they use crushed stone, there was a little drainage thing out front that keeps getting smaller. I don't know, those are my concerns.
No, I agree with Bob. It has seemed to
Yeah.
just continue to grow.
And I know they were having problems with this section. I see they proposed some sort of a wall, decorative wall out on Lincoln Boulevard. Is that to stop the water that's been pouring down there and washing everything out?
You know, it slopes down to the ground, they're gonna raise the whole thing up. And that was one of the concerns about it.
It's been washing down, like you said, it wasn't part of this, that he just went and did on his own.
Yep.
Still don't know if he got a building permit for the wall, that's not pretty good. I guess my biggest thing is that the thing grows and grows and grows, and I've never seen any drainage.
So that,
I know there's been people on the board longer than me that,
that wall and the treatment of this particular area,
I don't know, I assume.
well, that was the subject of their last visit.
Okay,
And we reviewed the plan at that time, and I think we were pretty specific. I seem to recall that
is that what?
one of the things that was said was, well, this is what we've got on paper, we may do this. And we said, well, no, if you bring it in and put it on paper and submitting it for approval, then our expectation is that that's what you're going to do. And so if it hasn't been done, then
I'd like to know if there is a drainage plan for this whole site.
I've never seen it with a
I
water
would
down.
venture to say there wasn't. It used to be a pretty good size. I'll call it a pond for the lack of, and that thing's definitely gotten smaller. I think it's a little puddle now.
You can see it on the picture, but it's really small.
I've only been on board 10 years, so I don't.
And I've never seen anything. That greenhouse went up We never saw anything about that. I don't know if that was because the building inspector didn't make him come for, when he put the greenhouse up. I don't know.
I think they did come to us for the greenhouse.
I don't remember.
They came to us for
Maybe
a
they did.
structure, and it wasn't the store.
Yeah,
I remember something.
I don't know.
But not for any of the, not for any of the other structures on the building, but that would be
I know it's
a
been.
building inspector call,
It's been
right?
there a long time, and I guess my only concern is where all the water's going.
Well, that's
Especially
always
to
the
remove more
concern.
trees.
Whenever there's a development,
Yeah.
you know, where's the water going?
What's left?
Water and traffic.
I mean, it doesn't seem to be a problem. I know it's a problem out here. That's probably why they're putting this wall up. But it doesn't, really not even a mention of the wall, other than you can see it on the plan.
So
Proposed.
that was the wall that got
Proposed.
approved the last time. This is just that plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, the date on the plan is May 4th, 2022.
Yeah. It's one of those things, how do you control someone that's already established and, you know, there and tell them what to do with the
Well,
property?
you know, we revisited that with the plant that's built on, you know, on 58 there. Remember the drainage issues that were involved with the precast plant there too.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
There's
So
those issues
fortunately, I
gotta be
think
revisited.
everything was functioning up there. Fortunately.
Okay, and have anything else to discuss with us
So what would the board like me to tell him?
Well, they're not asking for anything, they're just updating something. Aren't they just, doesn't this just say update, are they looking for some approval?
So Lucio gave me something, you guys said, come back. I think you wanted him to do a site plan review. And then they reached out to Kyle Garvey, who then brought this in, and I said I would show it to you guys tonight. He wants to clear those areas, those existing trees and boulder outcrops to be removed and replaced with crushed stone for plant storage.
My motion would be denied until we get a planting plan in accordance with our tree canopy bylaw.
Yeah.
Anyone want to second that?
I don't think we really need a motion, right? It wasn't, is this something?
Well,
I think a motion would be okay.
Yeah, I think-
It's on the agenda.
I think we
so.
should have a motion.
We made it, I'd second it.
I mean, it doesn't, would it be better not to say denied and just say, motion of the board is to have him submit a
Yes.
planting plan
Yeah, rather than
in
put the
accordance with
word
our
denied in
bylaw,
there.
our stated bylaw.
Yeah, so you've made that motion. You want to read it again, Rick, please? I'm sorry.
Motion is that the applicant submit a
Tree planting
tree
plan.
planting plan in accordance with our tree canopy bylaw.
And Jeff, you were going to second that?
Yep.
So the motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you, gentlemen.
It'll be easier for Carl to answer that anyway than the
All
other.
right, we'll move on to the town report.
Town report.
Okay, guys, we have the annual town report, and has everyone had a chance to look it over? Any corrections?
I have a few.
Good work. You've done a lot of good stuff this past year.
You just pass that down to Liz. Just-
Thank you.
Wow, forget that.
Makes it easier.
Wow.
I had to take over Wayne's role.
Yeah, absolutely, somebody needs to do it.
Wow. Thank you, Rick.
Nothing major, just grammatical tweaks.
Okey-doke. Anybody else have anything?
Nope.
Okay.
So I guess a motion would be in order to accept the town report as amended.
Motion?
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And
think that's it.
That's it?
That's it?
Hey, I just wanted to compliment you guys on the MBTA thing last week. I think you did an outstanding job, and it was well received. Kudos to the staff.
Someone, I don't know if you heard the same thing, Ron Housewife said she couldn't hear us on Zoom.
Yes, I heard that, and that was a technical difficulty that was cured in the replay. So if you listen to the replay, the microphones pick up everything so everybody can hear.
You fill in the speech for everyone while they're talking, you just kind of fill in what they're saying?
Right,
Yeah, she said
right.
they finally turned it off because they couldn't hear anything.
If they go back and watch it, they should be able to hear it.
I need a motion to adjourn, please.
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, everyone. Good night. Thanks for watching.